Jacob Arlen had always been known for his jokes. On board the Odyssey's Edge, a research vessel orbiting the gas giant Viewership 9, humor was a survival skill. Months in space could strain anyone's nerves, and the crew often relied on Jacob's light-hearted quips to keep spirits high. His bright smile, easy laugh, and quick wit had become a comforting constant amid the cold metal corridors and blinking consoles of the ship. Yet no amount of humor had prepared him for the challenge that the planet below and his new colleague would present. Karenai was unlike any being Jacob had ever met. She came from the Coalition, a race of crystalline entities whose bodies shimmered like living glass prisms. Their society was highly logical, highly disciplined, and entirely unfamiliar with the chaotic ways of humans. Karenai in particular had an intensity to her that both fascinated and unnerved him. Her eyes, or facets as he liked to call them, reflected every color of light in the observation deck, refracting the stars outside like a kaleidoscope. Despite the strangeness of her appearance, she carried herself with a quiet dignity, and Jacob found himself drawn to her calm, precise presence. The assignment that brought them together was as dangerous as it was extraordinary. Viewership 9's upper atmosphere glowed with strange energy patterns, strange plasma life forms that seemed to communicate in pulses of light and vibration. Understanding these beings could unlock secrets about energy and life itself. Humanity's knowledge was still limited, and the Coalition's technology, while advanced, had never successfully interacted with these entities. It was a task that demanded cooperation, and, as Jacob quickly realized, a delicate understanding of interspecies communication. For weeks, the two had worked side by side in the observation deck, surrounded by hums of machinery and the soft glow of starfields outside. Jacob's attempts to explain human humor had met with polite confusion and occasional disapproval. Karenai had a habit of tilting her head in ways that made her facets catch the light just right, leaving Jacob mesmerized and nervous all at once. He found himself making jokes not just to keep her spirits up, but to keep his own heart steady. One evening, after 12 hours of decoding the energy patterns, the observation deck was silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Jacob leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He had spent too many nights staring at the lights, trying to translate pulses into meaning. Karenai's attention, meanwhile, was focused entirely on her console, her crystalline fingers moving with precision and efficiency. "You know," Jacob said, trying to sound casual, "if these signals don't make sense soon, I might have to start talking to them in jokes. Maybe they'll respond better." Karenai did not look up. "Humor is inefficient for communication with sentient plasma," she said evenly. Jacob grinned. "You're no fun, Karenai. No wonder humans are so fascinating to your kind." For a brief moment she paused, tilting her head. The light from her facets seemed to shimmer differently. "Your humor," she said slowly, "is illogical but intriguing." That was close enough for a compliment in Jacob's book. He chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "I'll take that. Intriguing is almost the same as charming, right?" Karenai regarded him for a moment, then returned to her console. Jacob smiled to himself. Despite her logical nature, there was something about her that felt human in its own strange way. The next day, however, things became much more dangerous. The ship was orbiting lower in Viewership 9's atmosphere than usual, attempting to capture higher resolution energy readings. The plasma life forms began reacting unpredictably, emitting sudden surges of light and energy. The ship's systems, already strained, began to fluctuate. Warning alarms blared. The crew scrambled and Jacob's pulse raced. Karenai approached him, facets glowing faintly with an unusual intensity. "We must synchronize our neural interfaces to stabilize the energy fluctuations," she said. Her voice, though calm, carried a sense of urgency that made Jacob's stomach tighten. "This process is risky," Jacob's mind raced. He had trained for emergencies, but nothing in his manuals had prepared him for synchronizing his mind with another species. "Risky as in may die risky, or risky as in will probably explode the ship risky?" he asked, trying to inject humor even as his heart pounded. Karenai's expression did not change. "Both," she said simply. Jacob swallowed hard and nodded. "Right, both it is." Then, as they connected their neural interfaces, a strange, almost electric sensation ran through Jacob. It was like stepping into a river of light. His thoughts mingling with Karenai's in ways he could barely comprehend. She remained steady, guiding him through the process with calm, precise instructions. Yet beneath the surface he sensed something extraordinary happening. Their minds were beginning to intertwine, not fully but enough to share perception. He could feel her focus, her curiosity, even a flicker of what he could only interpret as excitement. The moment of tension broke when Jacob, in an effort to lighten the strain, said, "Well, if this doesn't kill us, you can kiss me as a thank you." The silence that followed was thick. Jacob's mind raced. Had he just made a mistake? Did Karina even understand jokes? Then suddenly she leaned in. Her crystalline lips, so impossible and beautiful, touched his. A burst of light pulsed through their neural link, bright and warm and disorienting. The energy stabilizing the ship seemed to respond instantly, calming the surges and restoring normal function. Jacob blinked, trying to catch his breath. Wow. Karina pulled back slightly, her facets catching the starlight from the planet below. "Your joke is not insignificant in your culture?" she asked. Jacob laughed nervously. "Not usually this effective, no." She considered him carefully. "In my culture, this action binds energy and essence between beings. It is sacred." Jacob's jaw dropped.
Sacred? Wait, so...
"You mean that?" "The kiss." He trailed off, realizing that something far bigger than humor had just occurred. Karina nodded, her expression calm but intense. "Yes, our consciousness is now partially linked. You may feel my thoughts as I feel yours." Jacob felt a strange rush of awareness, a mingling of sensation and perception he could barely describe. The world had shifted in a single moment. A joke, a laugh had turned into something profound, something that could change not just their lives, but the course of interspecies relations in the galaxy. Over the next several hours, the two navigated this new connection. Jacob could sense Karina's thoughts as vividly as his own, and she could perceive his emotions and intentions. Together they discovered that their combined perception allowed them to understand the plasma life forms in ways that neither species could have achieved alone. The entities were not random or chaotic. They were ancient, intelligent, and capable of communication through resonance and energy pulses. As they documented their findings, Jacob marveled at the situation. What had started as a joke, a casual quip, had led to the first human crystalline mind link in history. He could not have imagined that humor could become a tool of diplomacy, of science, of survival. And yet here it was, unfolding in the observation deck of the Odyssey's edge, with the gas giant below and the stars beyond, a witness to humanity's irrepressible ingenuity. By the time the emergency subsided, Jacob and Karina were exhausted yet exhilarated. The crew of the ship looked on with a mix of awe and confusion. No one could deny that something extraordinary had happened. A joke had turned into a breakthrough, a human quip into an unprecedented act of interspecies connection. As Jacob gazed at Karina, facets glowing softly in the dim light, he realized that the bond they shared was more than mere survival. It was a beginning. Humanity had once again surprised the galaxy, not with weapons or power, but with curiosity, humor, and heart. And Jacob, of all people, had done it with a joke. After the incident with the kiss, Jacob Arlen felt a strange new awareness that he could hardly explain. It was as if part of Karina's mind had woven itself into his own. Thoughts, emotions, and perceptions now flowed in subtle, overlapping currents. He could sense her focus when she analyzed data, her curiosity when she noticed the smallest changes in the plasma energy patterns, even the faint traces of her humor, something he had once doubted she possessed. And she, in turn, could feel him, the nervous excitement, the rapid heartbeat, the relentless energy that humans carried like a spark. The rest of the crew gave them space, wary of the strange connection, but trusting that their synchronization had stabilized the ship. Jacob and Karina spent hours in the observation deck, studying the plasma life forms, whose pulses had become clearer and more coherent now that they were listened to by two minds instead of one. It was astonishing. The beings were communicating in complex, interwoven waves of energy. They seemed aware of the humans and the crystalline being, and their patterns hinted at intention and intelligence far beyond any sensor reading. One evening, Jacob leaned back against the observation deck's railing and stared out at the swirling colors of Virelon 9. The planet was beautiful, violent, alive in ways that were hard to describe. Karina floated nearby, facets dimly glowing in thought, her attention half on the plasma patterns and half on him. "You know," Jacob said, "I never expected a simple joke to end up like this. I mean, I always knew humans could be interesting. But this?" He gestured at the readings, at the glowing life forms, at the entire experience. "This is next level." Karenai regarded him quietly. "Your humor, your irreverence, it caused an act that our people would consider unprecedented. It created a connection we never believed possible between species." Jacob grinned. "So I guess humans really do surprise the galaxy." Karenai tilted her head slightly. "Indeed, and perhaps your kind's unpredictability is an asset in ways we have not considered." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by a sudden alert from the ship's systems. A bright red light flashed, accompanied by an urgent series of beeps. Jacob's stomach sank. He had hoped the emergency was over, but it seemed that the plasma life forms had more to reveal. "What is it?" he asked. Karenai's facets pulsed rapidly. "The entities are sending a new sequence. It is a warning." The observation deck filled with cascading waves of colored light. Jacob and Karenai instinctively synchronized their focus, their shared consciousness allowing them to perceive subtleties that no individual mind could. The message was clear: the star system was unstable. Quantum instabilities in the core of Virel 9 threatened to release an immense burst of energy, potentially destroying anything in orbit, including both the Terran and Coalition fleets stationed nearby. Jacob's heart raced. "How soon?" Karenai's voice was calm, but the rhythm of her facets told him she was as concerned as he was. "Within 72 standard hours, immediate action is required." The Terran command, informed via long-range transmission, ordered the Odyssey's Edge to withdraw immediately. The Coalition fleet received similar instructions. Both sides wanted safety first, control second. But Jacob and Karenai understood the stakes differently. The plasma lifeform's warning indicated that withdrawal alone would not prevent disaster. If the energy released uncontrolled, it would obliterate both fleets along with potentially thousands of civilian colonies in nearby systems. Jacob's mind raced. "We can't just run. We have to do something. We're the only ones who can actually understand them." Karenai's response was immediate. "Agreed. Our connection allows us to resonate with their energy. Perhaps together we can stabilize the fluctuations." They worked tirelessly, mapping out the quantum instabilities using their combined neural abilities. Jacob's human creativity paired with Karenai's precise logic formed a synergy neither species had ever experienced. The plasma lifeforms, sensing the connection, seemed to respond positively, their pulses becoming clearer, more harmonious. The warning had turned into a conversation, a desperate plea for cooperation between species and sentient energy. As the hours passed, Jacob felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had joked his way into this mess, and now lives depended on their ingenuity. Karenai's calm focus steadied him. He realized that despite their differences, they were both united by the same instinct: to protect, to create, to survive. Humanity had always relied on determination and imagination in impossible situations, and now that legacy was extending to the stars. The first attempt to stabilize the system failed. A massive pulse erupted from the planet's core, shaking the Odyssey's edge. Jacob and Karenai felt the shockwave in their shared consciousness, a strange, resonant pain, like being inside a living storm. The plasma lifeforms reacted violently at first, disorienting the ship further. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the crew scrambled to maintain systems. Jacob gritted his teeth. "We need another approach." Karenai's mind was sharp, almost surgical in its focus. "We must synchronize more deeply with them." "Do not resist the link, Jacob, trust me." He nodded. "Trust you? That's easy now, isn't it?" A faint pulse of amusement rippled through their link. She said, "Yes. Now focus entirely on resonance." They closed their eyes and reached for the connection again. Jacob felt the plasma lifeform's energy wash over him, their vibrations pulsing through his mind, his body, and the ship. Karenai's essence intertwined with his, stabilizing the flow, translating the alien patterns into actionable resonance. It was overwhelming. He could feel every ripple in the star system, every flicker of instability, and, incredibly, every thought and intention of Karenai's mind guiding him, minutes or hours. Time felt strange. Later, the storm began to calm. Energy pulses smoothed into patterns and the ship stabilized. The crew stared at the readings in awe, witnessing the impossible. 2 minds, 1 human and 1 crystalline, reshaping the behavior of an entire planetary system. Jacob felt a wave of exhaustion but also exhilaration. "We did it," he said, his voice trembling. "We actually did it." Karenai regarded him, facets shimmering with soft light. "Indeed, your impulsiveness, your humor, your humanity, it made this possible." Jacob laughed quietly. "So I guess humans really do save the day again." Karenai's pulse resonated like a gentle chime. "Yes, today your species demonstrated the power of unpredictability, courage, and connection. A lesson even we did not anticipate. When the fleets received confirmation that the star system was stabilized, both Terran and Coalition leaders were stunned. The story of a human joke leading to unprecedented cooperation spread quickly, later recorded as the Resonance Accord. It became a symbol of what humans could achieve, not through strength or aggression, but through curiosity, courage, and the unyielding drive to connect. Over the following days, Jacob and Karenai continued to study the plasma life forms, now with a deeper understanding and mutual respect. Their shared experience had forged a bond that transcended species, culture, and even the limitations of language. Each day, Jacob marveled at how humor, a simple human trait, had sparked something extraordinary, a bridge between minds, a new kind of communication, a living proof of humanity's potential. In the quiet moments, when the ship drifted in orbit above the glowing planet, Jacob would look at Karenai and remember the joke that started it all. A simple, careless line. "If this doesn't kill us, you can kiss me as a thank you." And somehow, against all odds, it had worked. Karenai's facets caught the starlight, refracting it into a spectrum that danced across the deck. "In my language," she said softly, "this act is more than a joke. It is a bond, a promise, a recognition of life's potential. It is sacred." Jacob smiled, his heart swelling with pride and disbelief. Close enough to a joke, I guess. And as the two gazed at the stars, connected in ways no one else could understand, Jacob realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not in its weapons, not in its technology, but in its heart. Its humor, its creativity, its courage to act even when the odds were impossible. Today, that strength had saved a star system. Today, humanity had once again shown the galaxy what it meant to survive, to adapt, to triumph. The plasma life forms pulsed softly, a gentle rhythm that Jacob and Karenai now understood as gratitude. And in that moment, floating above a glowing giant, they knew this was only the beginning. Humanity's story among the stars had just begun, and it was brighter than anyone had imagined.